Hello, welcome to our first episode of The Watchmen, where we talk about local politics and the goings-on in the city. I'm here with Councilman from the Center Ward, Harley Droba. You can introduce yourself.
My name is Harley Droba. I'm currently seated as the Center Ward City Councilor for the International Falls. And I am also the councilor-elect for the councilor-at-large position for the city, and I take office in January.
So I was actually just making fun of him, calling him the Center Ward Councilor. I'm Ted Saxton, and I was recently elected to the school board for ISD 361. So I'm the school board member-elect. And we're just gonna basically talk about just whatever comes to our mind, and we're gonna try to make this a regular show. And part of both of our campaign promises was transparency, and so you know what we're thinking, or at least part of what we're thinking on why we make decisions we make, and also I don't know. That's
about it.
That's about it. We just want you guys to be informed because a lot of the times when you see the minutes of what happens at the city council or the school board, you just see the yes and no votes, and you're not sure the research behind it or the reasoning behind it. So recently you were elected to a new councilor seat. I know that you talked about this a lot when you were campaigning and why you ran for a different position even though you were already on the city council.
Right.
So if, to the millions of people watching at home, if you don't mind just saying again, because it is a little strange.
It is strange, and I totally get that. And from someone on the outside not understanding how the city charter works, I would gladly explain why I ran for a different seat on the same city council. Right, 2 years ago, I was elected to the city council representing Center Ward, which basically is from Highway 53 to approximately 11th Avenue. And that runs from the airport all the way up to the river. So there's a very small area of International Falls that I represent on the city council. If I were to move, and we had been looking at moving for probably the last 6 months. If I were to move and want to keep on city council, I would have to move literally in that boxed area between the river, Highway 53, 11th Avenue, and the airport. So we had been looking at a couple houses, and one of the houses we were looking at was in West Ward, which is directly behind Super One. It has since sold.
Also, it's like 3 blocks away from his house.
It's literally like 3 blocks away from where I live right now. So when I heard that Councilor Kaler was no longer going to be running up for his position and that his seat was open, I talked to my wife and I decided, you know, if I was to represent the councilor at large, anywhere in the city limits of International Falls, we could move, and then I would still be able to stay on city council. So from the outside looking in, yeah, it sounds very bizarre that someone is looking for a different seat on the same city council. But the reality is I really love what I'm doing on city council, and I believe in the work, and I think that I think I'm doing a really good job. And with that being said, I'd like to keep my options open, and I'd like, if we decide to move into South Falls, most of South Falls is in the East Ward. If we move closer to the hospital or on Shorewood or something like that, then I'm going to be in the West Ward. So we just really wanted to take the opportunity when the entire city was open, because the only other way as a city councilor, or being on the city council, that I can represent anywhere in the city limits of International Falls is if I were mayor. The likelihood of that happening is fairly slim. So that's why I moved.
Harley Droba 2020 is what he's saying.
Yeah, word for word, that's what I said.
I know that you, during the election cycle, you were talking about the fact that you want to represent the whole of International Falls. And I know you kind of said tongue in cheek because a lot of people were saying,
You
so
are.
are you just representing, the center ward? And I know you because we've been nemesis for a long time, nemesi? Nemesises?
Nemesis.
For a very long, nemesi?
Yeah.
We've been nemesi for a very long time, and I know that of course was you have always been representing,
Right.
had the best intentions. Do you think that it's something that should be looked at, that we shouldn't have wards? Because I was thinking about this the other day, and it's to prevent like five sitting people all living, in Shorewood or something like that, or any neighborhood for that matter. But is that likely to even be a problem? Do we need to have the ward still?
It was interesting 2 years ago when I ran. I thought it was rather silly that I was running for a ward in International Falls because we only have 6,000 people in the entire city. In fact, we have a low dense population for Coochin County. Half of Coochin County lives in the city limits of International Falls. I guess I don't strongly feel one way or another if it should go or if it should stay. I think that we have a good setup for city council. I think 5 people is fine. I guess for me, I don't care one way or another. I was elected to a smaller area, and I do believe that if 2 years ago it was the councilor at large seat, I don't know if I would have gotten on, because there could have been someone from Shorewood, or there could have been, and I'm not saying that Shorewood is, so they're gonna win, but the reality is it really opens up to the councilor at large seat. Anybody can run in the city, so you could have 6, 7 people, where historically for Center Ward, where I got my start now, we don't get 3 people running or 4 people running, because there is a different feel definitely to East Ward, which is, the South Falls area and the area next to the lake. There's a definitely different feel to Center Ward, which mainly is in the dense population of International Falls between 11th Street and 3rd Street by the library, which is what most people think of for our residential area. And there's definitely a difference in West Ward. A little bit nicer houses, a little bit newer. So there is definitely some differences, and so maybe me getting my start at Center Ward makes sense, but
I will also say it's not like an issue that's even being talked
right,
about.
absolutely.
I was just curious on how you felt about it, because and I don't foresee that even, because nobody's bringing it up. Nobody really cares. The only time it's been a problem is right now when you wanted to possibly relocate. So,
Right.
So I don't foresee that being an issue anytime soon. I do know you guys have five voting people, including the mayor, and the school board recently went from 6 to 7 board members.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that more people would make those tougher decisions easier, because it's not just you voting down something or voting up something, standing up for something?
For the 5 people?
Yeah, for the 5 people on the city council.
I think that having an odd number is a very good idea.
But I mean, like, what about like if you had 7? Obviously, if you guys had 4 or 6 people,
Yeah.
half the stuff wouldn't get done. I think
Right.
that's safe to say with the current,
Right.
and even past city councils.
Right.
But do you think that you guys are good at 5?
I think we're good at 5. I absolutely do. And to go back, it isn't too far ago that I actually ran for school board and I didn't get on.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the reasons that I had ran for school board 4 years ago is exactly what
Yeah,
has
I remember
happened
that.
now. Because I was so frustrated with 3-3 ties on the school board back then, because there were, without going in what those specific issues were, there was probably 3 or 4 back-to-back-to-back 3-way ties where they were unable to move forward as a school because they weren't able to make decisions.
I remember that. It happened quite a bit in that summer when the summer was coming to an end.
Yep, absolutely. And that was one of the reasons why I had made the choice to run for school board at that point, is because my thought was, if you had a person on the school board who had their beliefs and they would stand up for them, but also would be like, you know what, we need to make a decision, be willing to, change your vote to be able to move forward, because there was so much locking of that school board. That was one of the reasons that I wanted to run at that point. And since then, they've made some serious change on the school board, and that's why now we have 7 people. And I think that was a brilliant move for our school board.
It was kind of weird because when you ran, there was a lot of candidates. I shouldn't say a lot. There was more candidates. People didn't get elected.
Absolutely.
Harley didn't get elected. A couple other people didn't get elected.
I missed it by 1 vote.
Yeah.
If you go back to the Secretary of State website, I missed it by 1 vote.
And we know who you are.
We're gonna get you.
So then that got approved to where they were going to have. It wasn't approved yet. So then they have the next election, and they have 1 person on the ballot.
Right, and then they had writing.
Yeah, so they had 2 people who were actively campaigning for writing, and they got elected. So the 3 seats were filled. But after I saw that, and I was thinking, well, we're going to add a seat, and we don't even have enough interest in it.
Right.
However, this time there was plenty of interest. Matter of fact, the seat I was running for was a special election to fill Tom Holt's seat because he was hired on at the school.
Right.
So when I applied for it, I asked Kevin Grover. I said, "Has anybody applied, or how many people have applied for the 4-year term, and how many people have applied for the 1 2-year term?" And the answer was nobody had applied for the 2-year term, and the 4-year terms, there were 4 people at the time when I asked them. I think there was a few more that signed on later. So I thought, sweet, I'll sign on for the 2-year term, and I won't have to run any kind of campaign at all. It's just kind of sliding under the radar. And then by the time the end of the next day, which was the deadline, my opponent had signed on. I was like, oh, darn it, now I gotta try, which it was a good thing. My opponent was, he was a great guy, and he would have done just as well, I'm sure. But I had my fingers crossed that I was gonna be one of the write-in candidates before.
Right.
I did wonder, and we'll go over some of the election results, but there was about 60 and 40, I think, write-in candidates for city council, or for school board. I don't remember the city council one. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering who's getting written in.
Right.
Like, I want to know these people that they didn't like, myself or my opponent, that they were like, were they voting for Harambe? I don't know. And 36,000 people voted for that gorilla nationally.
Yeah, I know. So looking at, I actually have your election results pulled up right now, and there were 28 write-ins.
Okay,
and,
28. All right.
And that wouldn't have changed the election for you in any capacity. And I also want to say, I had met your opponent for the first night at the forum,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very clear to me that you guys are both qualified. You guys both would have did a fantastic job. And I really look forward to Danny Salo maybe running for another position in the future, because he seemed like his heart's in the right place, and he seemed very knowledgeable.
And he got tons of votes.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
he did.
That was a lot.
Yeah, you won by less than 100. Oh no, that's not right.
No, it was like 300, right around 300.
Right around 300.
But in the scheme of things, that's not a whole lot.
That's not a whole lot. In fact, he won one of the districts, and all the districts were really close for you.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I did think it was interesting that I won some districts and didn't win other ones. Like what? There's no way to ever find out the cause of that. But
Right.
I always wonder what. Like, did I tick off some people in this one neighborhood or something?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I wonder some things like that too. Like why, like for my election results, I did the best outside of my ward. And that kind of scared me a little bit.
Harley's neighbors hate him.
That I actually did the best in West Ward,
Oh.
and not in my ward. And I found that interesting, because in East Ward, which, like I said before, is South Falls area, I won by 2 votes.
Oh, really?
The write-ins actually, if they would have voted, would have decided who won that one, because there were 4 write-ins on that particular ward.
Oh, they were 4 write-ins?
Yeah. In Center Ward, though, I did win, but I only won by 10 votes in my own ward. And in West Ward, I won by 564 to 527. So, my opponent did a lot of work in this election, and he sent out a lot of mailers. He did do a ton of door-to-door work, campaigning, and it definitely shows in the numbers, because he coincidentally is also my opponent of 2 years ago when I ran for center ward, and I won by a whole lot more last time.
Yeah, I think had you not been on the ballot running for city of Ward, Joe would have been a good second pick.
I do too.
I like Joe, and I would have voted for him if you weren't running. Yeah.
Well, and the thing of it is much like you, I did a vast majority of my campaigning online. I used Facebook marketing. I used a couple of pictures that just kind of said the outlines of what I've done, and I had one letter to the editor for $35. I did turn in my entire campaign report yesterday, and my total campaign report was $99.57.
Oh, yeah, $99.57. That's about right where I'm at, because
Right.
I spent some money on YouTube, and I spent maybe like $20 on YouTube, because I bid the lowest you can possibly bid. Like, so if there was no other commercials playing to people watching from this area, I would come up. So I bid a penny, and so I don't even know if I burnt through the $20. I haven't looked through it yet.
Right.
And then on Facebook, that's where we made our stupid videos that we made.
Works of art.
Works of art. They've been called corny, but they're works of art. And I attribute a lot of that, a lot of my election results. I was out there talking to people, and my mom was out there talking to about 10 times more people than I was talking to. So if Lisa Stouffer's bugged you in the last 3 months, I'm sorry about that, but thank you for voting for me.
Or a voting period.
Or voting, yeah. And but I think a lot of it was the demographic change, that people weren't using Facebook to advertise for elections. Well, about 8 years ago, I'd say 4 years ago, they
Right.
kind of were, and before that, there was nobody using it. Even this election cycle and the political or in the national cycle, you could tell. If Facebook was an indicator, we shouldn't have been so surprised about the election
Absolutely.
results.
Absolutely.
Because it was a viral campaign that was ran, and I think that's part of the reason why it ended up the way it is. And so locally, we really benefited from it. And it was your opponent utilized Facebook a little bit, but
Right.
mine didn't at all.
And I think that was in the last 3-4 days. The election
Yeah.
just really kind of hitting it. What I found interesting, and this is me, Facebook this year got into the election, and they had their polling. They told you where you could poll, who's on your ballot, and I think that is the future of our elections. And interesting side note, for anything less than the congressional district, which was Representative Nolan and his opponent Stuart Mills, I was the only one for the lesser precincts from 3A, the State House of Representatives, or the State Senate, City Council, County Board, School Board. I was the only one who got on board with Facebook and had all my information, so when people started looking at that stuff, they could pick me, and it would go right to harleydroba.com. It would also give my Facebook page, so you could go through, and it would give all of the information for the Harley Droba for Council page. And I think that was a big deal, and it was so easy to set up.
Oh yeah.
All I had to do is tell Facebook, hey, that's me. Here's my website. And it took 24 hours, but for the last 2 weeks of the election, anybody that utilized these Facebook services were able to work their way back to get to me to learn a little bit more about me. And I don't think that changed the election in any way, but I think that in the future it will change elections.
Well, I know you had harleydroba.com and I had tedsaxton.com, and I hosted your site, so I know what the numbers were. and you had about, I want to say like 500 views, somewhere around there.
Right,
anyway.
right.
But you didn't promote it as much as I did, and I promoted it, and I had 3,000 views on tedsaxton.com, and I attribute probably my win to that. The fact that not everybody could come and talk to me directly. I would welcome 3,000 people to come and talk to me if we got the time.
Yeah.
But it was a great way to get my my stances on a lot of things out there, and the fact that on some things I didn't have stances, that I was open to suggestion and waiting to see where the school board position or it'll take me.
Right.
And but it was nice to be able to have a website, and I think that locally, probably me and you are the only ones to do that. You and I.
Right, and my opponent, he ended up having a Facebook page, which was well done. It was really well done. Updating though, I think people need to understand that updating is very important, even if you're just putting up a message. And one of the other things that I think, and I know you actually teach a class on Facebook, correct?
Yeah.
On how to utilize
Yeah,
Facebook.
through community education.
A lot of people don't understand that comments, negative or positive comments, kick yours right to the top. So if you can get an article that a lot of people are talking about, guess what? Everybody in International Falls is going to see that right at the top of their page over and over and over again.
And you had a few that had a lot of comments on it.
I had one that had a lot. I'd
Yeah,
rather
one.
not
We don't need to talk about it right now.
I'd rather not talk about it, but it is a very frustrating point of conversation for me. But with that being said, yeah, if you can utilize social media, and traditional media too is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The Journal does a fantastic job at making sure that we're able to get letters to the editor. They are paid for a campaign. Also, just political ads that are in the paper. Chamber of Commerce does a wonderful job for candidates giving the forum.
Yeah.
KCC TV hosts that forum on their channel. So there is a lot of sources people can get information.
We do take like the Journal for granted, but it was everything on my website except a teacher survey was my answers to the questions to the Journal.
Right.
And it was nice. I really liked getting that survey from them because it made me actually think about
Right.
things that I hadn't thought about before. Same with when the teacher sent me their questionnaire. I wanted to answer it because I needed to know how I felt about it too, so it was really good.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in a campaign that really gets you soul searching on why am I doing this? What is important to me? And I think that's a great segment to where we were wanting to go in this is. So now that you're on school board, I mean, what are you thinking for committees that you're going to be doing, and what are your kind of goals at this point?
Well, I'll start off by saying I walked into the school today for a completely unrelated.
Did they roll out the red carpet when you came in?
They don't, and they still don't do that anywhere, even though I call ahead. No, but so I walked in there and I was supposed to sign. I thought I was signing some papers to get some checks for the classes I teach for community ed, and I wasn't quite sure where the business office was, and so I stopped right at Kevin Grover's office, and I stopped in there, and I got ambushed with a lot of information, and I'm very happy to get it all.
Are you Ted Saxton? Here!
Basically. And I mean, so, and then when after I got all that information, like the training that I get to go to and be a part of, every school board member has to go through 2 phases of training, and I get to go to mine in January, and then I feel like I'll have a better grasp of committees and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on boards for on and off for the past 5 years, and so the exact committees I'm not entirely sure. I do know that I want to be as involved as possible, and when I went to sign the check that I was signing, I suppose I feel very uneducated or uninformed, I should say, about this. I was filling out papers for my community education classes that I teach. And then I was also filling out paperwork for the school board which I didn't know I was going there to fill it, which is fine. And I had to sign, I didn't know this, school board members get paid. I didn't know that. The whole time I was running, I'm not kidding, I just like I wanted to do it. And of course, when I say they get paid, it's not like it's not a job. You're barely getting paid for your time to be there. Probably not, and even to do your due diligence on the topics, it doesn't cover it. But I thought that was interesting.
So I think people are blindsided when I tell them what I make for city council, because it's not a lot. City councilors in International Falls make $300 a month before tax. The mayor makes $350 before tax.
Ooh.
You work that off.
Good to be on top.
Yeah, it's that $50, boom. But you know, public service, there's not a lot of money in it, and as you move on, and what does a school board member make?
It was, I don't know what it comes up to. I guess I could just divide it by 12, but it was $33,120 a year.
So it's just shy
Yeah.
of $300 a month, and it's interesting because at some point you're going to have to make some decisions, and people are going to be upset, and parents have a tendency of being upset. And
I'm not even on the school board yet. I've got people coming to me. So.
Well, and it's interesting because let's say that the work covered that, or the money covered the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cover the complaints and the violation of your personal space.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
it's a very rewarding job for me. So I take that $300 with a grain of salt too.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I can almost say for sure that Harley would be doing it if he wasn't getting $300 a month. You know?
True.
So, so we both are doing it because we want to do it. And with that being said, so I'll learn more about the boards and committees that are involved with being on the school board. What about you? Is there any committees that you're doing now that you're not planning on sticking with, or some that you plan on picking up?
First of all, every election cycle, the beginning of the new council, whether it's the same council or a different council, the first meeting in January, appointments are made for different committees.
Okay.
I currently sit on the Land Use and Legislation Committee, the Public Works Committee, Budget and Finance Committee, the EDA. I think I might even be missing one.
It'll come back to you after the show.
Yeah, after the show at night, I'll be like, oh man, I know what it is.
When you're waiting for the committee.
And we also have the HR committee, which I am not on. And I feel horrible, but I really, and I'm on KEDA. That's the other one I'm on. Okay, I'm on the Kuching Economic Development Board. And I would really like to stay on KEDA. I don't know if that's going to be in the cards or not. The mayor actually makes the appointments in January. One of the things that I did say throughout this campaign, and I had written a letter to the editor about it, I'd really like to be on the recreation board. I just think that we need to start looking at a more encompassing piece of what recreation is, rather than just sports. One of the things that I see in our community is, I don't want to say a lack of community pride, but I remember as a kid doing the float making for the 4th of July. Like through the month of June, we used all the little parks in town to put together floats. Well, in my nostalgic thought process, that kills two birds with one stone. It kind of gets that nostalgic community pride back for these kids. And number two, done enough parades with the VFW that people say there aren't enough floats. So I mean, that's going to fix two things right there. If that's something that the rec board wants to do. I mean, I don't want to go in imposing my will if I were to get on that committee, but I also think that we're missing some other recreations like art and trail walking, and just utilizing the parks. Maybe having the rec board kind of oversees the city beach. Maybe we could have some activities that are a little bit more structured out there, maybe some summer beach volleyball or some water stuff or sand, I don't know what that is, but just to try to get, not all kids play sports. This isn't because my daughter is not a sports person, but she's an art person. And there is a lot of these new activities that are coming out that would be great for kids, and I think it's time that we start looking at a little bit more than just hockey and baseball and basketball. And that's one of the reasons I'd like to be on the rec board. I think I already said I'd like to stay on KEDA. Public Works, I've been on, and I've been on that for 2 years now, and when I first got on Public Works, I was just like, well, I don't, wow, okay, great. Buildings, infrastructure, that is the other the other committee that I
That's not part of Public Works?
Public Works and Infrastructure, but I wasn't thinking of
Alright.
the wording. But I would really like to stay on that. I think we've really made some good strides in the last year. We have been able to get some curbs back in the city. Great work being done by Ted Brokaw with the city. He's been
He's been great.
he has been really amazing, and no disrespect to anyone before him, but he had a little different way of going about it and a different plan. And our sidewalks are getting replaced, our curbs are being redone. We're actually looking at, we just did an entire remodel on 8th Street Rink. And that was part of Public Works.
Yeah, I was there yesterday looking at it. It looks nice. It'll be nice for this winter. Kind of made me wish that I had one of those houses right there. I was like,
Me too.
darn, I could have a fire pit.
Yeah, and then I would be in a different ward. So,
Yeah.
yay! But those are some really nice things, and I like what's going on the Public Works side. I would like to continue to be part of that. We do meet at least once a month with Public Works and just kind of hammer some stuff out. Since this is going to be like a show that we're going to be doing regular, one of the things that I'd like to just let people know right now, in the very near future, within 2 weeks, Public Works is going to be meeting specifically on how to fund some upgrades to the outdoor rink over at Cary Park. It is in rough shape, and we're going to try to structure a way of trying to get monies from 2016 and 2017 and start the work early this year, so that people will be able to utilize that rink this winter. So I really like the work that's being done on Public Works right now. I would like to stay on that. I have a little interest in HR, but I also know that Councilor Briggs and Councilor Jacksaw sit on that. Councilor Jacksaw is the chair of that committee. They've been doing really good work, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes there. But I would also be interested in that. But since we're talking about committees, now this is a something that I've never seen on our city council, because I've only been on for the last 2 years, and Mayor Anderson changed this when he came on. Notice I said we have all these committees.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, there weren't all these committees. 4 years ago, before Mayor Anderson came on, they had work sessions. So the first and third Monday of the month were city council meetings, and the second and fourth Monday were work sessions where they worked through as a full council your HR issues, your budget and finance issues, your public works, and everybody on the council was knowledgeable about that.
So those meetings were like 5 or 6 hours
They
long.
could be, but those were the work sessions, so you get all that information out. I kind of would like to go back to that, because as a public works guy right now, or it doesn't even matter what guy you are or what person you are, even HR. So let's use them as an example. Councilor Jackson and Councilor Briggs come up with a couple of issues that need to come before the council. So they make a decision, just the two of them. They get all the information. Then a week later, or days later, or an hour later, however it works out with the scheduling, then we go to a city council meeting, and it all gets rehashed again.
Yeah, okay, I can see
And so it's good that gets to be moved forward.
Mhm.
I understand that, so it's not like it's at every council
Yeah.
meeting, because even for land
But then
use,
you are just getting the Reader's Digest version too, which, I mean, you don't have to get as minute details, so.
Right.
I guess, yeah, either way would have its benefits.
Absolutely, there's benefits both ways. I will say that I like the idea of being, as a city councilor, knowledgeable on the whole conversation. If there's a HR issue that I don't know everything and then I have to vote on it, or I have to ask some tough questions that are now with the press in front of us, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's easier in a work session or sitting on that HR to ask some harder questions that don't necessarily have to be reflected into the, now you're still voting, you're still gonna be having that conversation with the larger audience at the city council meeting, but I would kinda like to go to these work sessions, cause I've never seen them, and that is something, I would like to lobby the mayor to kinda go to that. But with that being said, the downfall to these committee meetings is the full council hears all the conversation, so then when you go to your regular city council meeting, and you do have the press there,
You jump past the line.
I wanna come up with, for the sake of this, I wanna come up with something, controversial, but like, we're gonna get rid of all of East Ward. I don't know what it is, but we're gonna tear down all of East Ward, and put up a strip mall. Well, the crappy piece about that is, so we had a big fight at the work session, and then we get to the regular city council meeting. I move to get rid of East Ward. I second it. Any discussion? I think this is a bad idea. Me too. I think it's great. I do too. I do too. And then you go for your vote, and it's a 3-2 vote, and we're getting rid of East Ward, and nobody knows what the conversation was, why we got to that. So there's pros and cons both ways of how to do these committee meetings. Your initial question, I'd really like to continue the work on public works. I really like working with Keita. That's been pretty fulfilling with me. And if I could get on the rec board, that would be great. Those are the three that I'd really like to see. I've been the head of the Budget and Finance Committee, and I'm more than willing to continue in that capacity. I'd also be willing to hand that off if the mayor chooses to put someone else on that, I would be okay with that. And that's pretty much it.
On the Public Works Committee, it's really funny on a personal note. You guys, the city crew went through and fixed tons of sidewalks, and a lot of the sidewalks were messed up because over 20-30 years sewers would freeze, you got to dig up the sidewalk.
Yep.
And but then nothing got fixed. And I live on 7th Street and 12th Avenue, and everything around there got fixed. I drove all over town, everywhere was getting fixed. My mother-in-law's house, still not fixed. It's like the only one in town. And I'm not telling you this so it gets fixed. I think it's hilarious that it's not fixed. But
I don't know the specific areas of what it is, but because I do sit on the Public Works, I've got a little bit of information on this. There are some really old streets in town. I mean, and we have some really old sewer underneath them. And there are areas where we chose not to fix right now because
a bigger overhaul later.
If a pipe breaks, we just fixed, $10,000 worth of sidewalks on this road, or we fixed the curb, and now we're digging up the curb to fix that bad infrastructure underneath.
Well, that makes sense.
So there is definitely a plan to get to those.
Hey, that's why we're having this show, though, is because people don't know that
Right.
stuff. I was just bringing it up as a joke,
Yeah.
but that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're fixing some roads too, and I mean, the roads here, we have a constant battle because we'll redo a road, then we'll have a crazy winter where it thaws and freezes and thaws and freezes, and then 2 years later we have a bad road again.
Right.
And it's not for a lack of trying. I think all the roads that have been repaired within the last 10, 20 years, they're all going bad again. I mean, it's going to be
Right.
a never-ending battle.
Right, and there's, we actually have a circumstance that's coming up on our council pretty quick. And I won't say where it is in town, but we have a relatively new road where we ended up having to cut into it. And we had to cut into it because we had that, a a resident had a bad pipe going into the main sewer line, and so we had to cut up the road. And a lot of it is because we're an old community. I mean, people don't think of International Falls as old, but
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Celebrated
we're-
centennial.
yeah, I mean, we are officially old, and we need to start looking at a long-term plan to fixing this infrastructure.
I will tell you that we're old, but when I lived in Illinois, every town in Illinois is old. Their water was milk when it came out. At least we're not that old.
Right.
You know? I mean, we have pretty great infrastructure, and sewer, water. We have everything.
Well, we have
they're
great
trying
wa-
to push it out.
We have
further.
great water.
Yeah,
we got great water.
Word on the street is it's the second best in the nation.
Yeah, I lie to people. I say it's the best.
Oh yeah, you might as well. Those other people, they're not. They're not
Yeah,
going to call
they're
you
not
out on
gonna
it.
look at it. I had a brain fart. I was gonna say something brilliant. I'm sure.
Oh man, it was
It was gonna be huge.
so big, biggest brain fart ever.
Yeah.
Well, let me see. I had some notes here. I'll check and see if there's anything else we need to talk about. We talked about replacing you, election results, and committees. Is there any? And I'll be honest, I don't have any off the top of my head. But is there any issues coming up that you're going to be voting on or talking about that the general public should know about? Any of the bigger items?
I don't see anything right now. I think in all honesty, I think the biggest, and you hit it in your notes, and it's the same, one and the same. I think replacing me, my
Oh yeah,
position-
maybe we didn't actually talk
we didn't
about
actually
that.
talk about
We
that.
talked about that you ran for a new thing. Let's
Right.
talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I actually am curious about that just as a citizen.
Right.
How does that work? I mean, I know that the mayor replaces you, but I don't know if that's just cut and dry.
It's not cut and dry, and it's not actually the mayor that makes the appointment, as I
Okay.
understand it. Now, this has happened before. Let's be very clear. I'm not the first person that this has happened to.
Harley Drove just messing everything
I
up.
know, I wrecked everything. But think about it. In the past, we've also had people that were sitting on council that had still 2 years left on their term, and they ran for mayor and won. It's
Sure.
the exact same situation. And I found out just in our meeting yesterday, Councilor Briggs did this 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
He was moving, so he ran for the at-large position and won. So it was the same type of thing. You had to replace your stuff, and for the same reason. He was moving. That's
Yeah.
exactly the same reason he did it. So as I understand the process, and we have looked now at the city charter and the state statute on how this has to happen. Anybody that watches our special meeting from yesterday, which would have been November 14th, there is some discussion and an argument starting at the city about replacing me. I have to put in my letter of resignation.
And have you done that yet?
I have not.
Okay.
And part of it is, today officially is 1 week since I won the election. I have been on vacation, and I want to write it. I want to. I put things in words a little bit better than they just come out of my mouth. And I want to definitely thank the people of Center Ward for electing me 2 years ago, because I don't think I would even have this opportunity if it wasn't being on the board.
Yeah.
I've said this before, I fought more against myself 2 years ago when I ran for office because of my personality and who I am, and possibly people's perception of my inability to take the job seriously or whatever, and that's fine. That's what I ran against in the past. So going back to where we're at, I have to write my letter of resignation, and until I write my letter of resignation, the position actually isn't going to be vacant. It is my intention to keep my Center Ward City Councilor seat until I take the oath of office for Councilor at Large. That's my intention. I will have that in my letter of resignation. I'm hoping I can get that onto the council agenda for Monday. If I miss that, it would be December 1st, or the first week in December. Then, as we discussed yesterday, it would start the process of replacing me, which would be an application process. We do have a sample application that's already been written up. And it's just simple, you have to live in Center Ward, you have to be 21 years of age.
Do you have to be 21?
You have to be 21.
Huh.
That's what we have on our form. And you have to be, you have to be an eligible voter for that
Yeah,
area.
no legal aliens.
Yeah, and so that's the process. So we figure that we'll have that window for 2 weeks. And it was very clear at yesterday's meeting that Councilor Briggs specifically and Councilor Jacksaw want to make sure that we have interviews with all prospective candidates. And I think that's great. I won't mention any names, but I don't know how many people are gonna apply.
That's what I was just thinking, like, you don't have to worry about 100 people.
I don't think 5 are. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if 2 people did. And I hate to I honestly would I can't disclose who I think may run.
Mhm.
There are a couple of people I heard on the campaign trail. But I will be very open about one name. I would assume that the person that I just
Your opponent,
ran
that's what I was
against,
just thinking, yeah.
I ran against him 2 years ago. He lives in Center Ward.
And he clearly has votes, I mean.
Right.
It's not like, it's not like he'd be elected, but
Right.
he was part of an election that was pretty contested.
And
So we'll see.
I can see him running. There is another person that came and picked up an application for the at-large seat. Never turned it back in. And I know that they live in Center Ward. But because they never actually turned it in, I don't want to say their name.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, it's not public record.
it's not
They turned
public
it in.
record that they turned that in. So I wouldn't be shocked if they ran. But those are the only 2 people I can really think of.
Is there any truth to the rumor that I'm starting right now that you're going to give me your house so I can run for Center Ward?
What is give?
Like,
No money?
yeah.
Yeah, that's not happening.
All right. Well, it was worth a shot. You heard it here. Harley Trouble will not give me his house.
So I would guess, and this is just a guess. I would guess that because the seat doesn't become vacant until after I give up my seat, which would be when I would guess our first city council meeting in January. It would be my guess that we will not have a seated councilor because we can do all the process leading into it, but until I vacate that seat, nobody else can really take it because I'm still there. It's
Sure.
just like Councilor Kaler will still be the councilor at large until I fill his seat. So that's how I see this going. That isn't guaranteed. It's just my perception of the process as of right now because we haven't finalized what it is. And yet again, this is not uncommon. When Representative Eklund won state
Yeah.
representative, he stayed on until he took that other seat. Then we had to have a special election, and then there was a filing period, and then there was,
And then you had to have another election.
Right.
That was a pain in the butt for him.
But with that being said, this isn't uncommon. This isn't,
Oh, yeah.
you know, a lot of people would like to say that this is, you know, weird, or it's
Well,
not.
You know, this is actually kind of more of a life lesson. If you go back 5 years ago and you had to guess what you were doing today, there's no way. I wouldn't have be owning this store or running for school board. So things change in everybody's lives.
Right.
And that's why we have the rules that we have.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's not like it's just the Wild West and Mayor Anderson's just like, you there, you're now counselor. So.
Yeah. No, and it is not even a mayoral appointment for my replacement. It will be picked by the whole.
Well, that's
council
good,
as a
because
whole.
I always understood it as the mayor picked it. Because like when a state senator leaves his position, and this was a huge topic in Chicago recently, the governor appoints the replacement. And so I thought maybe it was the same kind of thing, so that's good to know.
No, it'll be voted on, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, because the position won't be vacated until I take the new seat. That's when that council will pick the replacement, so it will be 4 people, so there is potential that we have two ties. But
that's probably gonna last like one meeting. I shouldn't say, it's most likely gonna last like one meeting, and then the next meeting you'll have.
And let's be clear. We started this program. I hope people have watched all the way through. That was my issue with the school board, and I've already said in this, and never planned this way to make it a full circle of this episode, but that's why I ran for school board, because I couldn't deal with two ties. So if we have 2 people that run, I will say, I will be willing to concede my vote and ask for a revote so that we can get someone in that seat. I guarantee we have someone filling the center ward seat that is eligible by the second election, or second city council meeting in January.
Well, that's good.
So,
you know, you talked about how when you were running against yourself, not this one, but maybe the last time, maybe this one too. And it is interesting because we're both, probably you more so, but we're goofballs in life. But we take what we do very seriously. And that's why if you ever hang out with Harley, you might hear the occasional off joke, but it'd still be politically correct. But I mean, you're not gonna. It's not gonna be the same Harley. It's gonna be all business Harley and all business Ted at the city council meeting. So if any of my votes were like because he's a goofball, he doesn't take anything seriously. Over the next 2 years, I promise you'll see everything being taken seriously, just as Harley has with the city council.
I don't know who said it, but it's the most truth. Don't take yourself seriously, take the job seriously. And I really do. I mean, I know that clothes don't change anything, but I wear a shirt and tie when I go to the meetings. I make sure that I dress for the job. I try to treat everyone with respect, and I take the workload very, very seriously, very important. I do my homework, and I get my packet on a Friday night. Even if they leave it at the fire hall, I go and pick it up. I read through things, and I usually come in on Monday before meetings and ask questions that I have, so that when it comes down to the thing, if I don't understand everything that's going on, I'm going to ask those questions at the council. Now, sometimes I don't ask questions because I've already asked them. I already have the background information I have, and it's such a rewarding job. Being on city council, and I think you're going to feel the same way about being on school board. It is very good.
Well, also they say if you don't vote, you can't complain. But if you're elected to something, you can really complain. So now people have to listen.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably good enough for our first show. I'd like to have these as frequently as possible.
Right.
At least maybe every 2 weeks, if not every week. But so if anybody has any questions, make sure to message myself or Harley that you'd like talked about on camera. We'll be happy to discuss anything, really, even if it's a little controversial. I mean, we'll do it respect. We'll do it
more so.
Yeah, actually more so.
If you have something,
we'll talk respectfully.
And I am more than willing to give the opposing side to the view. I mean, I would love to have this as an outlet of my thought process.
It doesn't just
and
need
the
to be
thought
us.
process of other people on my council, because we don't always agree, and I would hate a city council that does. So I can respectfully give the opposition side my side, and I would love this to be an outlet so you can see where we're making our decisions from, because school board isn't going to be a cakewalk. City council isn't a cakewalk.
One thing about government is there's never enough money. So with that being said, you're already you're starting off fighting an uphill battle.
Right.
And so we just want you guys to know why we're making these decisions that we're going to be making, and welcome anybody that has an opposing viewpoint to come in here, as long as they're respectful. And I think anybody on school board or council will be respectful. So you're more than welcome to come and join us.
Right.
Send us a message in the meantime. All these videos are going to be posted at ifalls.tv and not ifallstv.com. It'll be ifalls.tv, and you can stay up to date with this and other happenings in the International Falls area.
Well, thank you, Ted. I greatly appreciate it. I think this is going to be a good deal.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, very
I'm
much.
looking forward to doing this, like in different aspects
Right.
too, not just political. So
Right.
I'm pretty excited about this. All right, well, thank you very much, and
Thank you.
thanks for watching The Watchmen.
Thank you.